So what does Netflix, the platform that gave us House of Cards and Frank Underwood, have in common with the great Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi? A story about great disruptors from the birthplace of radio, Signal Hill, St. John's, Newfoundland, here on this edition of the Reinvention Chronicles. In 1901, when Guglielmo Marconi first heard the sounds of a radio broadcast coming from a station based in Cornwall, England, and over a distance of 3,500 kilometers, these first faint signals were the distant early warning, the proverbial writing on the wall for the communication companies of the day, the telegram companies, for example, and they were tremendously disrupted, not very happy. And when you stop and think about it, disruption in the early 1900s was no different than the disruption going on in so many industries today. The taxi business, for example, and the struggles that they are facing with Uber. So radio would eventually unite nations and provide hope in the darkest days of World War II. Radio, the golden age of radio, would eventually give way to television, and as so many of us are seeing today, television is now giving way to the internet.
Reed Hastings seems as tough as his DVDs.
Practically indestructible.
He has transformed the world of movies, TV, and cable twice.
We rent DVDs, it's a flat price, it's really easy.
He's one of the people that killed the video store.
Oh, we would have liked nothing better than to bury Netflix.
Netflix has now become a streaming video colossus, bestriding the world with fabulous original programming that has totally transformed the way we watch TV. They're expanding like crazy internationally and could cover the whole globe by the end of next year, and as if they felt like it. Meanwhile, their domestic business is proving to be much more profitable than the legion of critics ever imagined.
So it used to be renting a movie, for example, meant going to a mom and pop video store or swinging by the nearest Blockbuster, bringing home a VHS tape or a DVD. And in 1997, Reed Hastings was the Marconi of the day. He changed all that when he got tired of being charged for late fees. And as the story goes, Reed Hastings apparently had rented Apollo 13, misplaced the cassette or the DVD, and he ran up a late fee of about $40, and he didn't want to tell his wife about it. And he was going through all of this internal anguish and realized as he was driving home one day that there was something fundamentally broken, something fundamentally wrong with the system. And he was realizing, wait a second, why couldn't he? Was coming back from his health club, and he thought, well, how come the movie rental business isn't a lot like health clubs where they charge you whatever it is, $30, $40 a month, and you can use it as much as you want or as little as you want? And in that moment, Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix, had the epiphany, and because deep down he didn't want to compromise the integrity of his marriage. So really, he was asking those questions in terms of disrupting the status quo. Why couldn't we do the same thing with the movie rental business as people were doing with health clubs? And that seed of an idea would eventually blossom into, over time, the very first smash hit television series on the internet, House of Cards, starring the nefarious Frank Underwood.
America, I'm only getting started.
Frank Underwood, played by the incredibly talented Kevin Spacey. Now that was an interesting story of disrupting status quo when you consider HBO, Showtime, AMC. They all wanted a pilot. It was only Netflix that was willing to take the risk, willing to take the gamble. They signed up not for one, but for 2 full seasons. And as many of you know, at least those addicted to the binge watching that results from House of Cards, this show was not only critically acclaimed and a ratings bonanza, but a huge moneymaker for Netflix. So what does all this mean to you? Well, if you're a consumer, we just love it when Netflix, YouTube, Uber, House of Cards, Tom's Shoes, many others come out and reinvent business models or break new ground when it comes to introducing new social contracts as it relates to how business is transacted in the 21st century. But if you're a CEO or you own a small business, well, then you want to really pay attention to the great disruptors, whether it was Marconi or Reed Hastings, because these are the people, and they're around you right now, that should be keeping you up at night. Hey, we live in an age where two 19-year-olds working in their parents' garage or basement are literally plotting and scheming to creatively destroy whatever business category you're currently operating in. It's happening in technology, it's happening in professional services, it's happening in the marketing world. Every single aspect of the business ecosystem is being impacted by the tsunami of change like never before.
I think when you see the internet, you see the growth of these companies like Uber and Amazon in every sector. It's not just us. The internet allows just incredible consumer experiences, and so we're willing to bet on that.
I'm Frank Underwood, and I approve this message.
So as the fog rolls in on us here in St. John's, Newfoundland at Signal Hill, here are three things to think about as it applies to your business or your career. Number one, are you reading the writing on the wall in your particular space? Because those who cannot see the writing of the wall, the writing on the wall, are absolutely doomed to a future of business illiteracy and eventually being left behind. Number two, never forget, relevancy is the new currency. You're either going to be relevant or you will be relegated. So, for example, what is the equivalent of the late movie, video movie rental fee in your particular category? Are you making it easier or harder for your customer to do business as this world speeds up? And number three, are you disrupting or waiting to be disrupted? Because business history is now absolutely littered by those who dominated today, but by tomorrow or next week, they were in the process of being marginalized. So it's very clear now, the message ever so clear, either disrupt or you will be disrupted, or, as the very eloquent Frank Underwood is so fond of saying, far better to be the hunter than be hunted. Question dogmatic beliefs. Really start to think about ways that you can say F you, Frank Underwood, to the status quo, and actively watch and listen for the faint signals of change before it turns into a hurricane that you just can't control. From Signal Hill in St. John's, Newfoundland, some ideas to help you recreate and reimagine the business, the brand, and the career